The holly and the ivy, when they're both full and grown, yet all the trees that are in the wood, the holly bears the crown. Merry Christmas, everyone. I'm having instant regret about that. My name's Ben, or Big Ben. Welcome to London. I can't wait to give you this very special Christmas exclusive Victorian tour of London. We're going to be seeing some very exciting things. We're going to talk about the origins of Christmas. We're going to talk about trees, mince pies, Christmas puddings, crackers, see some lovely lights. It's going to be fantastic. And not only that, we're doing this on Facebook, but if you follow us on YouTube as well, we're doing this video for you. And all over this weekend, we're going to be doing live tours for you all across the world, in New York, in Amsterdam, in London, and in Zimbabwe. It's going to be fantastic, all right? And we're going to have such a good time together. So you're experiencing this once in a lifetime opportunity of doing these tours with us, this special Christmas tour. Unfortunately, as SANDEMANs, we're not doing tours on the ground in many of our cities with big groups, so we're doing live tours for you, all right? Because as you can imagine, COVID has absolutely destroyed the tour guiding industry across the world. So if you enjoy this tour and you're having fun, please donate whatever you can. There'll be a little link below in the comment sections. Whatever you can, as much or little, it would be absolutely fantastic and so good for the company. Every penny that you donate will go to us guides to do more tours so we can carry on giving you these live videos. A little bit about myself. My name's Ben and I'm a tour guide, I'm a historian, I'm a Londoner, I'm a North London boy. I'm born and bred in this city. I absolutely adore it. And my areas of expertise are royal history, military history, and Victorian history. So that's why I'm giving you this really special Victorian Christmas tree tour, because everything we do in Christmas at this time, the traditions in Britain stem from the Victorian era. And if you've got any questions, before we start the tour, we're going to have a little open forum, so you can ask me as many questions as you like. Please go for it. And I'm going to use my phone, the wonders of technology, to ask. Let's have a look. Bear with me. Any questions at all? And please tell me where you are right now. Where are you watching from? What time is it over there? What are you doing? How do you celebrate Christmas? Right, let's see our first question. Hi everyone. What's your favourite food at Christmas time? Javier. Javier from Argentina. What's my favourite food at Christmas? I haven't got a sweet tooth, but I do love mince pies. I really adore mince pies, especially if you microwave or put them in the oven for 5 minutes. That's my thing. Yeah, I love mince pies. And it's special because you only get to have them once a year and they disappear off the shelves. Mince pies and mulled wine. I really like mulled wine. It's a special type of wine where they heat it up and they put lots of spices. But the problem is, because they heat it up, it becomes very alcoholic. So, you know, you only have a couple of glasses and you're gone. So it's really lovely. Manuel from Barcelona. What are you doing for Christmas? What am I doing for Christmas? I'm going home. My folks live in the West Country in a place called Gloucestershire. It's sort of west of England, sort of into the southwest sort of area. And I'm going to spend it with my sister, my mum and my dad, just the four of us. Normally we have all our extended family over, but because of COVID, there's just the four of us, which I don't really mind. And I haven't seen them in 6 months, so it's pretty special for me. Any other questions? Hello from Dublin. Hello, Clara. Lovely to see you. What's London like at Christmas time? Well, even now, even though we're in tier 3 lockdown sort of restrictions, it's very busy. There's a real buzz around Christmas. I think it's because it is a national holiday. Even though London is one of the most multicultural religious countries and cities in the world, and people celebrate all these different religions and cultures, everyone has this community around Christmas time, with office parties, with going out, with kindness, with spreading the joy, with spending lots of time, and everyone has time off during Christmas, which is quite rare. How all these businesses just shut down except for the emergency services, and there's a real festive cheer people go out and keep this Victorian values of getting absolutely smashed. All these Christmas parties all over London. I bump into them when I'm doing tours. It's a lot of fun, yeah. Christmas in London's very busy, especially around Oxford Street as well, because so many people are doing last minute shopping like me. I always leave it till last minute. What's the stories with Christmas crackers? From Chris. Hello, Chris. The story of Christmas crackers. It's one of my favourite, actually. It's quite an understated story. The English claim Christmas crackers, but it's not entirely our invention. It's a mixture. So basically there was this sweet maker called Tom Smith during the Victorian era, who was very popular actually, but he wanted to expand his business, and he was very much like a Willy Wonka of his time, and he always wanted to sort of look for new recipes or new ideas to make him money. And then he went over to Paris, where it was very suave and very cool, and all these Parisian people were very fashionable, especially with their food and drink. And he noticed that all these people in high society were having little sweets, little treats, almonds covered in sugar in these tiny little wrappers, and they were twisted at both ends. And then he brought back the idea, put in his own brand, stealing a bit, put his own brand into it, his own sweets and his own chocolates, and then they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they became the crackers that we know now. And in my household, I don't know if other households do this, at Christmas dinner, the lunch or supper as some people have it, we cross our arms and you hold on to them and you pull them. And normally there's small little gifts, a pack of cards, things like that. You can get luxury Christmas crackers that are worth £100,000, which have like designer jewellery and watches, which is pretty cool. I've never had that, maybe one day. What else have we got? Lucas Fernandez Estevez, that's a brilliant name. What's your favourite Christmas tradition? Well, there's one as a kid and one as the adult. As a little boy, believing very heavily and still doing Father Christmas, he is real, I remember leaving a mince pie and a carrot for Rudolph and a large glass of port, and then coming down that morning as a little tiny boy, I used to be small once, and, seeing that the mince pie had been gobbled up, the port had been downed, and he'd also, what else he had done? Oh, and the reindeer had bitten the carrot, and I would lose my mind. And there was a little snow boot. Someone had left an imprint, because he clearly was from the North Pole. And I loved it, because I genuinely thought with all my heart that Santa had come down my chimney and delivered that and eaten all the food. My favourite tradition now, I tell you what it is around Christmas time, we normally are doing so many tours. Every year for the last 7 years, I'll always work on Christmas Eve. I'll finish my last tour. It's always a great tour. Everyone's in such a good spirits. Everyone's very excited. I'll go back home from London to North London, get in my car and driving home. That's a really nice tradition, knowing that for the next few days, I don't have to do anything. My mum's gonna cook me amazing food. I don't have to spend any more money, and I can just enjoy the company of my family, have a lot to drink and be merry and be with my loved ones. Yeah, that's my favorite tradition. Javier, where did you learn to sing like that? Not from a professional, but thank you, you're very kind. I did it in the moment. I said I might sing and my brain went, don't sing, and I did anyway. What else have we got? Are the museums open on Christmas Day? Susanna Perez. Probably not. There's normally a rule that museums are closed on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve and Boxing Day. However, there are exceptions to the rule, so just check online, and if in doubt, phone, because everything that's going on with COVID, some museums allow anyone in at any time. If they're national museums, sometimes they are open on Boxing Day, but do check online. But on the whole, no, they're not really open because it's a national holiday. You're most welcome, Chris. Any other questions? Anything at all? Let's have a look. Hi Manuel from Berlin. Hi David from Cadiz. Am I saying that right? I think that's it. All right. Well, you can ask me a few questions later at the end of the tour, but let's start this thing. Let's rock and roll. So ladies and gentlemen, have a look at this beauty. Come on in. This tree is a wonderful, wonderful tradition that we have. It's not ours. It's a Norwegian spruce. I say it with a Scottish accent. but maybe our Scandinavian friends can help us with it. And it's 23 meters long, and every year the Norwegians send it to us as a little gift. And despite COVID, they've sent it to us. They shipped it over as a wonderful tradition we've done since 1947. It's the Norwegians thanking us for their allyship and loyalty during the Second World War. And note, it's got its own little tradition. It hasn't got baubles or tinsel or anything like that. This is a special Scandinavian Norwegian tree where all the lights are vertical. They're hung vertically, very understated, very classy, all right? Not only that, if you look down here, there is this special nativity scene which they include every year, which looks like a little bit of modern art, very sparse and very abstract. I absolutely adore it, but they put it right next to the tree. I find it amazing how we've got this tree this year. Now, to talk about the origins of the Christmas tree, it was never actually a British thing. It actually started in Germany. The Germans started the tradition of the Christmas tree. And basically in the wintertime or Christmas time, they would bring a tree from the outside in, all right? And then what happened is when Queen Victoria married Albert, Prince Albert, the German sausage, as the Daily Mail liked to call him, because they didn't like having a German prince. But then he became a bit of a national hero, and the natives and the populace adored him because he was a pretty cool guy. He actually brought the German tradition into Buckingham Palace. And then in one royal photo, it had Queen Victoria, who also has got very strong German roots, Prince Albert, and their little son, Albert, Bertie, Dirty Bertie, as he would be called later, Edward VII, and a Christmas tree in the background. And then what happened is we took this tradition and changed it. We would put candles instead of electrical lights, and instead of tinsel or baubles, we would put dried fruit or hanging fruit or little sugar snacks and treats and chocolates and things like that. Now, as the years went on, the tree and the presents would become bigger and bigger and bigger. And because kids were getting more toys and people would be more generous and it became very popular, the presents got a lot bigger and they couldn't be hung on the branches because they would just fall off. So they would put them under the tree. So that's how the origins of the Christmas tree came about, and how you find all your presents under the tree instead of on it. Now, talking about traditions, the Victorians absolutely adore to eat, all right? They love to eat. In fact, your average Victorian man would have about 12,000 calories a day, okay, not including alcohol, and they used to absolutely cane it. They used to eat and eat and eat and eat. However, they used to do a lot more exercise than we would do. We think that we're this gym nation going around exercising all the time, but not only that, they would walk, they would run, they would exercise, they would all play sports, so they were very fit, so they needed a lot of calories, all right? But one of the best things to do in London is right over here, the Crypt Cafe, all right? This is where they do tea or high tea, a really wonderful Victorian tradition that we have, where you can have scones and clotted cream with jam, spotted dick, behave, Eton mess, semolina pudding, baked Alaska, and you can have lots of little sandwiches, and it's very high quality, very affordable tea. So next time you're in London and you want to have a Victorian tradition and have some good grub, come to the Crypt Cafe. It's absolutely stunning, really beautiful, and you can have this wonderful tradition. And my favourite tea is Earl Grey or English breakfast. It's very strong indeed. Now, another tradition that we have at Christmas time is the Christmas pudding. Now, this is pretty ancient, if I'm honest with you. What it is now is it's a pudding, Christmas pudding or figgy pudding or plum pudding. But originally, it actually started in the Middle Ages. It was a mix of mince, meat, or lots of different types of meat, and vegetables all squashed together in a ball. And then what would happen is that they would put it in a sheep's stomach to preserve it. And after that, they would sort of eat it as a very nutritious meal. However, over the years and going into the 1700s, when people had a sweeter tooth and wanted more savoury or sweeter things, they would then turn it into mince, actual spices, dried fruit, flour, sugar, and stuff it all together really tightly. And then in the Victorian era, what they would do is douse it all in alcohol, and it tasted fantastic, and they would light it on fire to release the flavours. And this became very popular, and it became very popular especially with soldiers abroad, because during the Victorian era and the colonisation, they were sending these puddings to soldiers in the artillery, the cavalry and infantry in India, in Africa, in New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. And what it was is it means they could enjoy it because it was preserved and it would last the journey. It was also a very political thing as well, simply because this Christmas pudding became sort of a mockery of other nations, but also it became this very strange cartoonish thing where it was supposed to symbolize the empire, all these different dried fruits and plums and figs and everything being stuffed together, representing all the different nations, being put together in this ball representing the British Empire. And there's all these very funny political cartoons. You can actually check them out. One of our guides, Ellie, if you follow her on Instagram, Rebel Tours, she's got these incredible cartoons, Victorian cartoons, of people mocking the idea of the Christmas pudding and what it's supposed to represent. Now, another thing about Christmas, which a lot of people don't really know, is that it was so popular in Britain simply because we were a very Christian nation, whether it was the Catholic Church or the Church of England in the 1800s, and especially the royal family were particularly religious. And whatever the royal family did, people would copy. And because Prince Albert and Queen Victoria adored Christmas and the idea of family and spending it together and eating lots of food, they decided that they would sort of publicise this in all their photos and in all these newspapers, so people did it all over the world because it became popular. The royal family are pretty popular these days, but in the 1800s, Queen Victoria was like a national celebrity, and it was very fashionable to copy the fashion of the royals or do all their little traditions. Now, in terms of Christmas lights, all over London, we've got these wonderful tradition of Christmas lights. Some of them are very bright and garish, some of them are very nuanced. Some people or professional artists have designed them, all right? That's why it's pretty amazing when you go around London. And thousands of pounds are put together to create these very special lights. And we're going to see some in a minute, which have got a little bit of a backstory and very rare indeed. Let's have a look. And it's down Cecil Court, which is a very famous courtyard with all these shops. If you follow around here, you might be able to see them. Have a little look right up here. These are my favourite lights in Westminster, and I'll explain why. Now, they're very understated. They're not big, they're not too garish, they're not too comical. They haven't got cartoon characters or Santas or snowmans. What we have here is candles. Now, this is a little throwback to the Victorian era because, as I said, people would decorate their trees with candles, all right? However, you would need to snuff them out, otherwise it would be a bit of a safety hazard. And then we had this problem where a lot of people's houses would get burnt down. It was a bit of a tragedy. And now obviously we have electrical lights, but back in the Victorian era, it was quite dangerous to have a Christmas tree hanging up if you hadn't had a servant to snuff out the candles. Now, you can't talk about Christmas without talking about Charles Dickens, because Charles Dickens was an avid Christmaser. He loved it, he adored it, he put it in his works, A Christmas Carol, which I'm going to talk about later. And Victorian Christmas and Charles Dickens go hand in hand with each other. We're going to go down an alleyway in a minute called Goodwin's Court, all right, which is a perfectly preserved Victorian alleyway. It is fantastic. Many of these alleyways don't exist anymore because so many of them got destroyed during the London Blitz, during the Second World War. However, this alleyway is perfectly preserved, and it's got all these gorgeous Georgian bulge windows and industrial brickwork and Victorian lamps, and it looks something straight out of a Charles Dickens novel, something like A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, Bleak House, Little Dorrit, you name it. And also, it's very dark and very creepy. A lot of people don't realise this, is that a lot of Christmas stories are ghost stories. Follow me through here, be careful, all right? Hold someone's hand because it's a little bit spooky. Don't be afraid, Jericho. Don't be afraid. It's all going to be okay. All right, shh, careful. Let me tell you a Dickensian story, so I'll stop doing the voice. If you look over here, folks, look at these gorgeous doors with these Victorian brass handles here, these knockers, amazing, with these Greek faces, and these gorgeous bulge windows, very rare. You don't find architecture like this anymore. And these Victorian gas lamps, super rare indeed. And this, whenever I do my tours in the morning, this is my favourite piece, all right? It's very small. Check it out. This brass door. Come in close, Jerry, come in close. Look at that horrible little face. This reminds me exactly of A Christmas Carol. Probably, I dare say, Charles Dickens' most popular story. It's a Christmas story, it's a ghost story, and it's a soul story. It's not even 200 pages long. It's very short, and it was one of the most popular he had ever done. All these chefs are looking at me bizarrely, thinking, what is he doing with this strange voice? But it's a brilliant, brilliant story, and it's got a strong political and social message. But what is this story, essentially? Well, Charles Dickens' story, A Christmas Carol, made Christmas incredibly popular, and the idea of Christmas and its values, its Christian values, this idea to peace on earth and goodwill to all men and women. Because in the Victorian era, there was a huge divide between the super rich and the super poor, and Charles Dickens spoke about this a lot politically. I'm doing very well, I have to say, walking backwards. I haven't tripped on anything. I say that I'll probably fall through a window in a minute, but I'm rocking this, I'm not going to lie. That's the first time I looked over. I might have to, remember I am a very large man, everyone. Hang on, let's see if I can, oh, skill, I know it very well. This thing, it looks straight out of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Nailed it, absolutely nailed it. Have a look up here, folks. I can turn my torch off. Have a look. Look, this is straight out of a Charles Dickens novel. Absolutely stunning. Really, don't worry, we're in your way. This is really beautiful indeed. I love it. It is indeed. Yeah, I was talking about it in there. I don't know if you heard me rabbiting on. So what is A Christmas Carol? So it's a very simple story, but it's one of the most popular. So popular that it's been retold many, many times indeed. And the first is actually this man called Ebenezer Scrooge, this very, very rich man who works in the city of London. And he is a moneylender, and he was very rude, very cruel. He drove a lot of people into poverty, and he was a bit of a shark, if I'm honest with you. And a lot of people cared for him and had pity on him, but also a lot of people felt very, very sorry for him, and some people absolutely hated him. Now, he is visited by his old business partner, Jacob Marley, who he owned this money lending business to. And Jacob Marley, who's been dead, for a number of years, says to him, Scrooge, you need to change your ways, otherwise you're going to end up like me. You're going to go to hell or purgatory or be damned for all eternity. So then what happens is 3 ghosts visit him and take him to the past, the present, and the future. All right, and when they take them back, he's reminded when he was a little boy what a lovely, kind soul he was, how sweet he was to people, how the world had made him embittered and people had hurt him and he had broken his heart with his first love who he wanted to marry. And then basically what eventually happened is he became this horrible person, and he did change his ways. He did change his ways, and he did change who he was, and he became a really wonderful human being. But the message Charles Dickens was saying to us is that Christmas is not an idea that you do once a year, a day where everyone is kind to people once a year. It's actually you are kind to people and share generosity and passion. Sorry. 2 tall men almost colliding. You share kindness and you share passion and generosity every day of every year. And what he was essentially saying, which was a pretty bold thing, is because the divide between the rich and the poor was so huge, he was saying it's up to the rich and it's up to the super wealthy to help the poor, to help them in their need, because so much of London and the East End were in poverty. Very strong political message. Now, we're about to head to Covent Garden, which is known as being one of the best places to see lights. And the great thing about it is, if you look behind me, we're heading for the piazza, all right? This is the only and first piazza in London, all right? Now, Covent Garden originally used to be a cattle market, but there's always been a market here. I'm trying my luck here a bit, I think, but there's always been a market here. And the apple market was originally a fruit market. Now it's a really cool place and very trendy, with lots of brilliant shops and places to go, and it's very upmarket, and lots of tourists love this area. However, it never used to be like this. This used to be the most dangerous and violent red light district in London, all right? This is where all the artillery officers and cavalry officers used to come and drink themselves into oblivion at the famous Punch and Judy Tavern. This is where the Covent Garden ladies used to hang out in the pillars, waiting for men, and apparently if you gave them 2 guineas, they would raise your member quite efficiently. Ask your mum later. And then what would happen is that Oscar Wilde spoke about Covent Garden and the town in Soho, that this was the area where he would paint the town scarlet with his sins. Now this over here is what we have, your traditional Christmas tree, very sort of European and American style, and this is always here. This is always comes every year with the baubles. There are 30,000 lights on this tree. And this is what we have in the traditional Christmas tree style. And they always do a colour combination of white and red. And also the street performers here, very popular in Covent Garden. And also if you want to be a street performer in Covent Garden, you have to audition. So you're going to be very good indeed. But this is your standard Christmas tree, which is very popular, but it's a tradition we have here in Covent Garden. Follow me through to the Apple Market, the oldest piazza in London. Now what we have here in the Apple Market is these very large baubles, but another thing that is incredibly popular is mistletoe. Now some countries, it's very busy tonight. It's Friday before Christmas, so very busy indeed. Everyone's trying to get their final drinks in before they go home, and it's the office Christmas party. Now mistletoe, these white little bulbs, is actually a plant, it's a flower, it's also a poison. And this was a tradition that has been around for a very long time. The tradition is during the Victorian era, you would hold mistletoe, the women would hold them and put them in their hair, or they would hang them at places around the house where hopefully their lover could find them and they would kiss. The rule is if a woman had mistletoe, you had to kiss them. So a lot of men were avoiding a lot of women, and a lot of women were avoiding a lot of men. But this is what they do every year in the Apple Market. And the reason it's called the Apple Market is it used to be a fruit market. But some of my favourite decorations in London, but especially here in Covent Garden. Now we've seen 2 very large trees indeed, but I want to sort of show you your standard tree that your average household in Britain, in London, well what I would have in my home is more like. And this is the standard with all these lovely decorations and baubles and tinsels, but there's some designer trees out here I want to show you. These are state-of-the-art ones as well. Let's have a look. So these here are your typical Christmas trees, with the decorations, with the lighting, with the baubles. It's amazing to think that it was just simply a tree in the house, which the Germans used to do. A very simple idea, and then the Victorians sort of spiced it up with fruit and chocolates and little presents and candles, which was very dangerous. But now what we have is these lovely little gifts as well, handing. If you come over here, there's a few decorations which have sort of traditions behind it and ideas behind it. Oi. Come and zoom up over here. This is one of my favourites. There's one on my tree at home in Gloucestershire. This is what we call a nutcracker, a little soldier in his scarlet tunic and his boots and his moustache. This is actually by the Royal Opera House, and this is very important because the Nutcracker is a very famous ballet they do every year. And the Nutcracker is a story about a ballerina and a nutcracker, and she shrinks to the size of the nutcracker, and they live in these 2 small people in a giant world, and they have to kill the Rat King, and they meet the Sugar Plum Queen. It's a very, very, very famous story, and they also do it here at the Royal Opera House. Now, this is one of the most world-famous opera houses around. It's also apparently very, very haunted indeed. And in 1999, when they did construction work in the Royal Opera House, all the scaffolders and the builders said that when they were the only people there and security said no one else could get in, that ghosts used to fling bricks over their heads and things would drop. It was very dangerous indeed. Now, that's the thing which people don't realise, is that around Christmas time, ghost stories were very, very popular, because around Christmas time, the pagan believes that all these spirits came out and they started to play and would do little mischievous things. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. This was my special Christmas tour for you. But before we wrap up, I'm going to open up the floor again for some more questions, if any of you have to ask me about anything really, about traditions in the Victorian era, about general things in London, any history really you want to know, please ask away. Let's have a look. Bear with me. Technology. What's your favourite thing to do on Christmas Day? If I'm honest with you, my favourite thing to do on Christmas Day would probably be, I think it's lunch, because there's so much of it, and the whole idea is everyone can eat as much as they want and they're not going to get into trouble, and the whole point is to eat it all up and the preparation that goes behind it. And I do like turkey. A lot of people don't like turkey. I'm very fond of it indeed. Or goose. I've never tried goose before. Any other questions? Let's have a look. How many days do you get off for Christmas? This year, probably a few more. Normally, not so much at all. Ellie, what's your favourite Charles Dickens book? A Christmas Carol. I know it's Christmas time and I'm in a very festive spirit, but that is genuinely my favourite, I would say. Because it's very short and there's a lot going on, and the descriptions of the characters are really, really brilliant indeed. But yeah, A Christmas Carol is probably my favourite, but David Copperfield's very good. If you've never read Dickens before, read David Copperfield's. Or Little Dorrit. And Little Dorrit is also very funny. That's what a lot of people don't know about Charles Dickens, is he's a very, very funny man. All right, what else have we got? What do you like to do on Christmas Eve? On Christmas Eve, we'll have a small family meal because we know we're going to eat a lot the next day. And I'll stay up quite late with my dad and we'll have a few drinks because we probably haven't seen each other for a very long time. Just waiting for other questions to load. Meanwhile, guys, just to remind you that during this weekend, we're going to be doing tours in Amsterdam, New York, and London throughout this weekend. And you don't have to do anything. You just sit at home and watch them. And also to remind you that if you enjoyed this tour, please donate as little or as much as you can. As you can imagine, this COVID situation has really caused havoc in the tour guiding industry, and every penny you donate to us here at SANDEMANs, it will be going for paying the guides, doing equipment, so we can do more and more tours like this for you. All right, all over Europe, all over the world, special tours, and you don't have to do anything. You can just sit at home and watch the live stream. It's brilliant. It's revolutionizing tour guiding as it is. Another thing I'll also say, if you enjoyed this tour, if you want to learn more or more history or more facts, please follow me on Instagram, Big Ben Tour Guide. I talk about street art, I talk about Victorian history, military history, royal history, places to go, places to eat, places to drink. And if you've got any questions, please just fire me a message. Say, hey, I watched your live stream tour of the Christmas one. I didn't like it, but I've got a question for you. Please go ahead and just remind me who you are if you've been on my tours before. If you're planning a journey or you want museums to see, that's what I'm there for. So I'll be absolutely delighted. Big Ben Tour Guide. Now let's see the last questions before we wrap this thing up. Technology is failing me yet again. Javier. Turkey or goose? Turkey. Definitely. Definitely turkey. I've never tried goose though. I've had goose, but I've never had it at Christmas. Apparently it's very nice. But turkey. And actually the origins, the origins of turkey at Christmas is people say, why turkey? Well, one, it's quite a cheap meat to have, but also there was a theory that during the Victorian era, because families were Christian or Catholic and they would have much bigger families, they had more mouths to feed, and turkeys, as you can imagine, are very big birds. So that's why they chose turkey. I never have turkey during the year though. I don't know anyone that has turkey during the year. That's it, I think. Any other questions I will answer for you. You can follow me on Instagram and I'll answer your questions, just DM me. But any other ones also, I'll go on the YouTube and I'll put it in the comment section. If you've got any more, please fire away, because no more are loading at the moment. So on that note, I'd like to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope you have a wonderful time wherever you are. I hope you enjoy it with friends or family, or if you don't celebrate Christmas, remember that what we're celebrating. I hope you've learnt a little bit. I hope you enjoyed a bit of London, of what we've seen, a very crowded, busy London on Friday night. And I hope to see you in the new year when we're doing tours. Say you've watched my videos, come to London and I'll give you face-to-face tours, and it'll be entirely my pleasure. Once again, please watch more of our tours this weekend in Amsterdam, New York and London. If you can donate whatever you can, we'd really appreciate it, and there'll be a link below. So thank you so much. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2021.